Jotunheim, the land of the frost giants in Norwegian mythology. According to Norwegian mythology, there were 9 realms in the world. Some realms are well understood, whereas others are entirely unknown. Jotunheim is one of the realms with the most documented history, and it's believed that the land belonged to the frost giants. In addition to being an intriguing location in its own right, it also served as a backdrop for a number of well-known Norse tales. So what exactly was Jotunheim, and why did it play such a vital role in Norse mythology? Jotunheim, the land of giants. In Norse mythology, Jotunheim is widely regarded as the abode of giants, particularly the frost giants, the Jotnar or Jotun, and it was found adjacent to Asgard, the home of the Aesir, the Midgard, the home to humanity. Jotunheim is believed to be a world full of magic and sorcery, and also home to a number of threats to humanity where the gods lived. And despite the fact that Jotunheim had no ruler, a number of significant Norse figures originated there. For example, Loki, the god of trickery, was arguably the most well-known. The river Iving separated Jotunheim from Asgard and served as a form of defense. The river never froze and was extremely treacherous to cross, yet this did not prevent the Norse gods from journeying into Jotunheim. The tale of Thor and Gerod. The relationship between the Aesir gods and Jotnar was exceedingly antagonistic. In any myth involving a Jotnar and an Aesir, it was likely that the two have engaged in combat. Thor and Gerod are one of the most well-known in Norse mythology, and as with the majority of Norse myths, there are numerous variants, but they generally follow the same structure. So the story starts from the point where Loki donned a coat of falcon feathers and traveled to Jotunheim, and using a falcon disguise, he visited Gerad's castle. Gerad, however, was no fool. He saw through Loki's disguise and caged him. Loki was compelled to expose his true identity to the Jotnar as a result of his confinement and hunger. Loki was released by Gerad on the condition that the great Thor is brought to his fortress without his Thor's hammer. Loki easily persuaded Thor to visit the castle upon his return to Asgard. He told Thor that 2 beautiful maidens, Jalp and Greep, were awaiting him at the castle. Thor believed it to be true, left his hammer, and went on a journey to the castle. Thor and Loki spent the night in the residence of Grior, an amicable Jotnar, en route to the castle. She forewarned Thor of impending danger and handed him her belt, enchanted staff, and iron gloves. Thor attempted to cross the river Vimur after leaving Grior's dwelling, and while Thor was crossing the river, the giantess Jalp attempted to drown him by raising the water level. Thor utilized the magical staff to save his life. However, he irked the giantess and he hurled a rock in revenge. Thor was assigned a room with one chair upon his arrival at the castle. Thor, exhausted from his travels and more than a bit silly, sat in the chair and made a decision to take a nap. Clearly, that was yet another trap. Thor woke up to find himself fast ascending towards the ceiling. The 2 giantesses below him meant to squish him like a bug against the ceiling. Surprised by the circumstances, Thor immediately hurled the staff at the ceiling and pressed with all his strength, crushing the 2 giantesses beneath his throne, thus killing Jalp and Greep. Thor had had enough and confronted Gerad with the intention of fighting, and the monster immediately attacked, hurling a ball of molten iron at Thor. Thor captured the iron using gloves that were supplied to him. Thor fired the molten ball directly through the column and into Gerad's brain, despite Gerad's effort to hide behind a column. The lost hammer in Jotunheim. Thor is most frequently identified with Mjolnir, his magnificent hammer, and it is said that Thor and his hammer were the only effective defense against the Jotnar in Norse mythology, and if Thor ever lost his powerful hammer, it would signal death for the entire realm of Asgard. Consequently, Thor lost his hammer. Thor's angry yells over the loss of his hammer were more than sufficient to attract Loki's attention. Loki quickly realized that he must aid rather than obstruct in such a situation, so Loki went to the goddess Freya and sought to borrow her suit of falcon feathers and came up with an idea to pacify the situation. Loki wore an outfit made of feathers to reach Jotunheim, and once he reached there, he spoke with Premier King of the Jotnar, who quickly acknowledged stealing Thor's hammer. Mjolnir was buried so deeply underground that Thor would never have found his hammer. Loki instantly returned to Asgard to inform the gods about the location of Thor's hammer. The gods had a gathering to devise a strategy of retrieving the hammer without initiating a battle, as without Thor's hammer the war would have been a lost cause. Then Heimdall, the guardian of the Rainbow Bridge Bifrost, devised the only feasible plan. Thor must disguise himself as Freya and meet Premier while posing as a bride. They devised a plan to exchange the hand of Freya for Mjolnir. Premier was so impatient to accept the most beautiful of the goddesses as a wife that he arranged a lavish banquet in her honor. Thor quickly destroyed the ruse by consuming everything present. Premier was surprised to see this act, to which Loki reasoned that Freya was simply hungry because she had not eaten for 8 days, owing to her nervousness. Premier, overjoyed by this news, leaned down to kiss Freya, but was scared to see Thor's blazing eyes peering out from beneath the veil. Loki comforted the Jotnar king by explaining that Freya had not slept for 8 nights because of her excitement. Now very delighted, the foolish king ordered Mjolnir to be delivered as Freya's wedding gift. As soon as the hammer was placed in his lap, Thor completely lost his mind and slaughtered every Jotun in sight. Trickeries of Utgard Loki in Jotunheim. Once Thor, Loki, and Thjalfi traveled to Utgard, the capital of Jotunheim. They found Skimir, a giant who offered to accompany them to carry their food bag. However, after they agreed, he knotted the bag's drawstring so firmly that even the mighty Thor could not untie the strings. This caused Thor to become enraged, and he waited until the giant was asleep before striking him with his hammer to the skull, and this initial stroke had no effect, so he continued to strike the giant, and each time Skimir merely awoke and made fun of Thor by inquiring if the leaf had fallen on his head while he slept. After becoming bored with this game, the giant abandoned the three without food and went his own way. And the three soon arrived at the fortress of the giant Utgarda Loki. They asked the giant king if they could spend the night and grab some food because they were hungry and exhausted. Never missing an opportunity to provoke the Aesir gods, the giant made fun of all 3 of them, and if they sought to remain, he demanded they demonstrate their merits in multiple trials. The first trial consisted of an eating challenge between Loki and Logi, a member of Utgard's entourage. Although Loki was able to consume all of the food in front of him, Logi prevailed by consuming not just the meat but also the bones and serving through a trough. And the second trial consisted of a foot race between Jalfi and Hugi, an additional courtier. And again, Team Thor was defeated, with Thalfi losing 3 consecutive races to Hugi. And eventually it was Thor's turn, and he chose a drinking competition considering his capabilities. He failed. No matter how hard he tried, he was unable to drain his drinking horn. Utgarda Loki mocked Thor for being a coward and gave him a second task, lifting the giant's large grey cat. Thor was unable to move the animal, trying desperately to get the cat's foot off the ground despite his efforts. Thor was given one more job by Utgard Loki, that he must battle an elderly woman named Ili. Thor was humiliated when the elderly woman effortlessly wrestled him to the ground. The Bahamut allowed the 3 to spend the night despite their shortcomings. So you can imagine what all these are going. The deal between Odir and Mimir. Odin, yearning for knowledge, quickly accepted and proceeds to remove his eyes, which he then gives to the giant. The knowledge Odin sought was crucial to his efforts to delay Ragnarok, the end of the world. Jotunheim is considered one of the most important aspects of Norwegian mythology. What do you think of these mind-blowing tales? I wonder if there were giants. We know that there were giants, for example, in the Trojan War, the heroes were all giants. Okay, so it could be that it was a time, for example, when the 12 spies from the time of Moses and the Exodus went to spy on the promised land, Canaan. They did see giants. So were there giants there? It could be possible that this mythology has to do with very strong and huge ancient hominids. This is from Infinity Explorers. I'm Srivastava. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.